Hello and welcome back to Thirsty Thursday. Today we've got a guest host in our midst because Will is off holidaying for the moment. So welcome, Rohini. Thank you for coming.
Will leaves big shoes to fill. I'm excited to be here though.
You see, here's the thing that the audiences probably don't know is that we have a strong network of reporters who do actually alert us to those stories, and you're definitely in the advisory board of reportership. But also, I think today I wanted to start by doing a personal plug or an industry plug for us ourselves, and we've got our podcast ABCDEI out earlier this month. And I know that's something we've talked about for a decade, and we finally made it happen. So talk to me about that. We're thirsty for podcasting, aren't we?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was, interested in it, but a little bit nervous about taking the plunge. So thank you for, holding my hand and jumping in. But now I can't look back. It's amazing. And just the feedback from, our first binge drop of 3 episodes has been incredible. So I'm in.
I know it's a huge high, right? I mean, you feel really good about it, and you're like, really, you're listening, and then you look at those numbers go up, and the wonder is real, no matter how many podcasts you've done. And I think the subject matter is near to our hearts. I think it's stuff that we've both had opinions about as immigrants in Canada. We've never really stood up and said anything about it for a while, and just this journey of being able to comment on that, I think, is making me happy.
Me too.
So that said, let's go into the focus of Thirsty Thursday is to look at what the what brands are doing out there. What are we thirsty for? Good, bad, and ugly. And I know this week we've got a roundup of a few things. The first of them that we wanted to talk about was involving shrimp tails. So let's talk that one out.
So I think everybody's been following the story over the last 48 hours of, what happened with the cinnamon toast crunch debacle. As a PR person, I'm going to tell you that it made me cringe extra hard because what should have been an isolated incident of, foreign object in a box of cereal could have been easily dealt with, and it just wasn't. It was escalated. There was gaslighting. We're now DNA testing a shrimp. And also the brand just didn't pick its audience well, right?
Right. Yeah. We were talking about how, this person who found it was a stand-up comic who is a heavy user of Twitter. Like, don't pick a fight with somebody who knows how to fight back, right? And you made the poor man doubt himself. It's like, is this really a bunch of cinnamon and sugar in the shape of a shrimp tail? So yeah, I agree. It was completely sort of unnecessary. All you needed was an apology and a year's worth of cinnamon toast crunch, and would have been good, right? So that was one of the ones. The other one, on a slightly more positive side, and I know I'm a big fan of watching out to see how brands, or tech-savvy brands as they're being called these days, are applying some of these technologies around us. And one of the ones I thought was quite cool is Pizza Hut. And again, and it's not a hip new young tech brand. It's a brand that's been around for decades. And what they've done is it's not everywhere, it's in some areas. They've got pizza boxes that have like augmented reality sort of maps on it. And when you get the app on your phone and you like train it on your pizza box, you can play PacMan. And I thought that was really cool because, let's be honest, pizza is the state of life for many people, and getting the people to interact with your packaging is exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good way to stand out. I mean, I know, I grew up with Pizza Hut and that was the takeout of choice, but now they all sort of blend in and people pick more often than not based on geography or delivery time window. And so it's a really good way to stand out.
Gimmick in a good way, right? Yeah, I agree. The next thing that caught our eyes this week was the BetterUp, which is the mental health and self-development technology company, a unicorn, Silicon Valley unicorn, recently hired Prince Harry, the latest out of work prince, to be their chief impact officer. And I was all over that story. I thought it was a good move on many levels. But I wanted to hear what you think first.
Yeah, I mean, I think two things that really stood out for me. I agree. I'm totally in support of this move. One is, I think if we're going to mainstream mental health and talking about mental health, I mean, who better than, Prince Harry? I also think, we talk about this on ABCDEI a lot. Hire people with lived experience. This is somebody who in the public eye has dealt with grief from losing his parent, has dealt with, protecting his, girlfriend to now wife, from the monarchy and some of the dynamics there. And it doesn't matter that he doesn't have, X years of experience. It's great that, to me, that is somebody who has lived experience.
That's so true. And I think as narrative goes from both sides, whether it's Team Harry and Meghan or BetterUp, I think they've really stayed true to that sort of mental health theme. They've been quote unquote edgy in their choices in how they bring that story to the public, and I'm into it. So that's that story there. And then moving on really quickly to another brand story of some questionable, feedback was Krispy Kreme's move last week to get people to go in and take the vaccine. So do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so Krispy Kreme is giving people who are getting the vaccine a donut, right? So an original glazed donut for getting a vaccine. And there has been some, back and forth on whether it's a donut, because that's a low price, or is it a donut a day for the rest of the year? Either way, there's a moral conundrum, isn't there, Susan?
There really is. It's like, can't decide which is worse. But yeah, the thing that stood out for me was the fact that there's a definite double standard around some of these health lines, right? Like, I know I was telling you earlier that imagine if this was, I'll give you a cigarette a day or a bottle of wine a day for the rest of the year, like we'd be hearing about that, right? So somehow a shit ton of sugar a day appears to have gone under the radar by the way of offering. But that said, I know they are catching some backlash, especially in light of the fact that the last year of pandemic living has increased people's health issues, right? Diabetes is one of the biggest comorbidities for the COVID front. And like you were saying, it could probably kill you faster than COVID could. So that said, I think some of the thinking around this, I understand that the intention was good. And I know that we talk about intention a lot on the ABCDEI podcast. But again, let's not forget there's an execution piece that needs to go with it. And to me, this was really poor execution. And, better undone. I'm not often judgy like that, but I feel brave because I am supported by a PR maven on this show. I think that was most of the main stories that caught our eye this week. And I think it's cool that we're in a time when brands are really stepping out of what is traditionally defined as marketing and communications. And I think that the journey there is going to have a few pitfalls. But overall, look at us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right, folks, that sort of is a wrap on Thirsty Thursday. Thank you for joining us, Rohini. It's amazing to chat with someone who's actually behind the scenes giving us many of these stories during the week. Once again, go check out our podcast. It's called ABCDEI. You'll find it on Apple and Spotify and all the usual places. Also, don't forget this week's episode of the 4 a.m. report is an episode on heart-centered sales with Catherine Watkin, where she said some pretty deep stuff around the power of allowing people to say no. So check that out, folks. Thank you, Salsa.
Thank you.